My presentation is a photograph from Henri Cartier-Bresson. It was taken it was taken in 1945, probably in April. It's a silver gelatin print, and Henri Cartier-Bresson was born in 1908 and died in 2004, and was seen as one of the greatest photographers. His nationality is French, and his pictures are mostly captured with a Leica camera. He was born into a very wealthy family, and he did not have to earn money to make a living. This meant that he was free to explore the potential of the Leica 35mm camera. The Leica camera, created in Germany in 1925, was an innovation for photojournalism. Henri Cartier-Bresson is called the master of the Leica 35mm camera. The Leica camera used a 35mm movie film that allowed photographers to shoot numerous photos in succession without having to reload sheets of film. Because of its size, the photographers could go just about anywhere and take photos without attracting attention and become a part of the situation. As seen in this photographer, where Cartier-Bresson was part of this scene. Henri Cartier-Bresson was a French humanist photographer and pioneered the genre of street photography. Humanist photography can be distinguished from photojournalism as it focuses more broadly with everyday human experiences. They focus on conveying conditions and social trends. Street photography is a depiction of real life with an awareness of visual aesthetics. Cartier-Bresson viewed photography as capturing a decisive moment. Decisive moment is the moment at which all elements come into harmony to tell a story. When everything is in the right place, it is right, and this doesn't have to be the height of the action as seen in this picture. The story of this picture is so strong, and not because the fact that it's in the height of action while the woman hits the face of the informer. The photograph shows a Gestapo informer who has pretended to be a refugee. She has been discovered and exposed by a camp inmate. The judge, or man taking notes, is sitting behind a table. The Gestapo informer and the camp inmate who recognized her are standing and are surrounded by the misplaced, wronged, abused, and traumatized war victims. The identities of the women are unknown, but the man taking notes is identified as a Dutchman named Willem van der Velden. He's a camp commander at Dessau and has been stationed there by the American military. Van der Velden had just been released from a concentration camp himself that was called Westerbork in the Netherlands. This picture has been taken between April 21st and July 24th in 1945, right after the end of World War II. World War II was a battle between two groups of countries, the Allies and the Axis. The major Allied powers were Britain, France, Russia, China, and the United States. The major Axis powers were Germany, Italy, and Japan. Before World War II began, Germany was ruled by a man named Adolf Hitler. Hitler wanted to create what he thought was the best and strongest race, and to the Nazi Party this excluded certain groups such as Jews, Gypsies, and those with physical and mental disabilities. The Gestapo was Nazi Germany's feared secret police force. During the World War II, it had two main tasks. The first was to hunt out people who were not good enough in the eyes of the Nazis, while the second one was to tackle the threat of resistance movements. The Gestapo operated without valid court orders or on legal grounds. It also had the authority of preventative arrest. Owing to its relative small size, Gestapo relied extensively on the use of accusations from the local German citizens or the occupied territories. There were incidental informers, and they told the Gestapo that for example, they told the Gestapo that their neighbor did not give their radio up, or that there were people hiding on their property. Some informants made it their job to betray people and give information to the Gestapo on a daily or weekly basis. The main motives for the informers were greed, jealousy, or revenge. Henri Cartier-Bresson took this photograph at a camp of displaced people in Dessau, right after the end of World War II. Dessau is a town in Germany and was at the time occupied by American soldiers who had defeated the Germans. A lot of these people were displaced because of the actions of the Gestapo. During the war, people were arrested and transported to work or concentration camps all over Europe. Cartier-Bresson took this photograph as he was working with the Americans on a film for the information service about the homecoming of French prisoners of war. Henri Cartier-Bresson recalled about this film that it was a film by prisoners, about prisoners. Cartier-Bresson was a prisoner of war himself. He was able to identify with the situation in this photograph because he was a war prisoner for 3 years during World War II. The camps for displaced people were initially mismanaged and chaotic, and many camps represented coexistence of varieties of ethnicities under a single aid policy. Overcrowding in the camps was common, with some buildings holding hundreds of displaced people, making privacy a concern for many. The decisive moment. This is a segment of the film when the photography was taken. The narrator states that the informant explains that she was not trying to disappear with the flow of people that tried to return to their countries. During her speech, the witness that pointed her out as an informant gets angry and hits her in the face. Watching this clip of the movie about homecoming of French prisoners of war, it becomes clear how talented Cartier-Bresson was in capturing the decisive moment. It has been said that Cartier-Bresson had a sixth sense. Cartier-Bresson had a sixth sense to know when the decisive moment would happen. Cartier-Bresson would take multiple photographs, about 15 to 20 at a given moment and place, and make a contact sheet of them, and then choose one, the one that showed that decisive moment. He states about this photograph, "The scene played itself out before my eyes as my cameraman was filming it. I had my camera in my hand and released the shutter. The scene was not staged." While watching the film at a slower pace, it becomes obvious that he did take the photograph during the filming. Cartier-Bresson can capture a moment that we are unable to see in the film. Cartier-Bresson can capture a moment in time with his photograph that tells a story that the film was not able to. The aesthetics or the formal and formal elements. Henri Cartier-Bresson is able, through his position, timing, and framing, to create a composition where he uses formal elements to draw the viewer right into the middle of the story. It is about the story and not the height of an action. He uses balance and the rules of thirds to guide his framing. Cartier-Bresson uses the rule of thirds to lead our eye to the face of the informer. Her face is exactly at the crossing of the lines on the left top corner. Henri Cartier-Bresson uses an asymmetric but balanced composition. The center of the picture is created by the back left corner of the table, where our eyes are guided through by the lines of the table, and which is also important to guide our lines to the background. On the right side, the sitting man creates weight and attention asked for it because of the lighter and larger values. This is balanced out by the onlooker in the striped pajamas to the left, who also has a lighter value. Even though he is smaller, his so-called weight in this composition is even with the sitting man, just because he's farther removed from the central point, as well as his eye-catching pattern on his pajamas. The true women are connected by the lines of the table and are accented by the dark value of the clothing in contrast with the lighter values of the background. Henri Cartier-Bresson uses line to guide our eyes through the image from one important element to the other. The table is the center, and our eyes are directed to the corner of the table and the two women because of the direction of the lines. The table has an almost neutral texture and value compared to the dark and light values of the people in the background. It attracts our eyes because it's a place of peace and rest in contrast to the almost chaotic values and lines and shapes of the people in the background. The accuser or the witness connects our eyes with the informer because of the lines she created with her arm, which is kind of parallel with the lines of the table. Her other arm is almost connected with the judge in the foreground. These lines create a triangle between the three important figures in the photograph. The triangle is the strongest shape and therefore creates this very effective story and connections between the three main figures. Emotional value of the story is created by the expressions on the faces of the war victims, the informer, the accuser, and the judge. The sitting large judge envisions the object of law perfectly, justice after so many wrongdoings and suffering. He is large and static, unmovable, due to his sitting position and placement in the foreground. He wears glasses to shield and impersonate him even more. His perfect suit with crisp white board and perfectly combed hair only strengthen this image of visualization of objective justice. This objective justice is in stark contrast with the World War II story and emotions that are shown on the faces of the people in the background. His objective, non-emotional character strengthens the anger of the woman that has been wronged during the war and the guilty look of the Gestapo informant. The picture was not a part of the movie about the return home of the prisoners of war, but a book of Cartier-Bresson's photographs. He stated in an interview that he was hiding at a farm in France after he escaped a prison camp after 3 years during the war. He stayed at this farm with others that were hiding from the Germans. After he left to go to Paris to take photographs, he came back and observed that his friends that were hiding with him were taken away by the Gestapo because of an informant. He stated that he created a book with photographs, including this one, that he dedicated to the people that died and fought in World War II. The intended audience are the people that lived the traumas of the war. This picture of justice is a picture that will help them process all the awful memories and injustice that has been done to them because of the war. I believe that it also helped Henri Cartier-Bresson. He experienced firsthand what it is to live in a concentration or work camp during the war and losing many friends because of the Gestapo and informants. I believe the very strong emotional value and the story this picture tells has made this picture famous.